Welcome to My on Mondays, an explorative approach to the possessive my through narratives, art, and sound. Each Monday brings a new creation and unique perspective. My on Mondays is brought to you by Ming Studios, a contemporary art space and international artist residency program dedicated to the exhibition, experience, and exploration of arts and culture. Along with exhibiting artists from around the world, Ming also serves the community by hosting innovative programs including performances, workshops, screenings, readings, artist talks, and other cultural activities. For more information, or if you'd like to participate in My on Mondays, you can visit our website at mingstudios.org. Hello and welcome to the 90th episode of My on Mondays. We're back this week with a new episode by Rebecca Evans, a frequent contributor to Ming Studios programming. Rebecca is a memoirist, poet, and essayist. Her work reflects, among many things, fractured relationships. This fracturing influences every subsequent relationship, carrying scars and wounds throughout one's life. Evans weaves disability, domestic violence, and a fight for survival throughout her narratives, hoping to start conversations, create awareness, compassion, and tolerance. August of 2022 saw the release of the book When There Are Nine, poems celebrating the life and achievements of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for which Rebecca was an editor. For today's episode, Rebecca sits down with Rabbi Daniel Fink, who was a musical collaborator for the book's release. In their conversation, they share poems from the book, music, and their thoughts on the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
All right, well, this is Rebecca Evans, and I am sitting across from Rabbi Dan Fink. Thank you, Dan, for being here. I'm so grateful, sharing space with you again, celebrating Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
It's my great privilege. Great privilege to be part of the project, Rebecca.
Yeah, so we didn't really expect to, commingle on this project here, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg book that came out last year, 2022. And the book is called When There Are Nine. It's a collection of poetry that celebrates the life and achievements of RBG, and I'm one of the co-editors. So I reached out to you and I was like, hey, could we do something in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg in this book? And I think your email came back, we love RBG, all things RBG. And I was so thrilled, and you offered to play some interludes in between the poetic readings. I had no idea what to expect. I've seen you singing in the synagogue, a whole different idea, and I didn't know what to expect. And I'm not going to give away anything here, okay? So what I would love is if you would just play a song, and then maybe after we could talk about why you chose that song in honor of RBG and have a little bit of a conversation.
Sure.
Okay.
This is a Bob Dylan song called When the Ship Comes In.
Okay.
Take two. Oh, the time it will come up when the winds say will stop, and the breeze will cease to be a breathing, like the stillness in the wind before the hurricane begins. The hour that the ship it comes in, and the sea it will split, and the ships they will hit, and the sands on the shoreline will be shaken, and the tide it will sound, and the waves they will pound, and the morning will be breaking. Oh, a song it will lift as the mainsail shifts, and the boat it drifts into the shoreline, and the sun it will respect every face upon the deck, the hour that the ship it comes in, and the sands they will roll out a carpet of gold for your wearied tunes to be tootin', and the ships their wise men they will remind you once again that the whole wide world is watching For the foes they will rise with the sleep still in their eyes, and they'll jerk from their beds and think they're dreaming, but they'll pinch themselves and squeal, and they'll know that it's for real. The hour that the ship comes in, and they'll raise their hands saying we'll meet all your demands, but we'll shout from the bow your days are numbered, and like Pharaoh's tribe they'll be drowned in the tide. Like Goliath they'll be conquered.
Woo! Thank you. Why that song?
You know, it's a song about a vision of a better time. And the time will come up, you know, when justice will roll out like a mighty stream, said the prophet. And it just spoke to me of RBG and her commitment to justice and to seeing the law as a tool to make a better world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was so beautiful when we started this project, the book, When There Are Nine. It was poets reaching out to other poets, right?
Uh-huh.
And this great loss that we felt when RBG passed. And we just asked other poets, like, just write whatever you want to write. And the poems ended up being in conversation with each other, all so very, very different. And your addition of some Bob Dylan songs and songs that you felt created another layer of conversation, right? Of this idea of, yes, a better world, and what could we each do? We should all be doing something. But her fourth vision, her, foresight and almost foreshadowing of how to make that happen was really incredible.
And teaching by example.
And teaching, yes, yeah. So I'm going to read from the book, and I thought I would start with Shelley Wolpe's poem called Please Stop.
Beautiful.
And I'm picking a couple poems. When we did readings, these were poets. Shelley is an Iranian poet, so she doesn't live, nearby. And so trying to capture their voices recorded. So some of the poets that I didn't necessarily get to honor in other readings that we've done.
Love that.
So this is called Please Stop by Shelley Wolpe. The day a wrinkled cousin put her hands on me and said she wished to teach me about what happens between men and women, I said, please stop. The day a mustached waiter put his palms on my young chest and rubbed as he helped me across the street, I said, please stop. The day a stranger dances his fingers under my skirt in a dark cinema, when I was 10, I said, please stop. The day my boss closed the door to his office and felt my thighs under the cover of our working table, I said, please stop. The day an eminent Iranian scholar set his wine glass on the railings of a fence, grabbed my shoulders, pulled me in, and tried to kiss me, I pushed him back and said, please stop. The day a lover shoved me hard against the bedroom wall and bruised my wrists, I said, please stop. I've always been such a polite girl. Mm. So that was Shelley Wolpe's poem. So one of the things I've been thinking about, like the difference for you, if there is a difference, between music and poetry. Or do you feel there's a difference?
So interestingly, in Hebrew, the word is the same. The word is shirah. And shirah can mean either music or poetry, or both, obviously. They're siblings, I think, and sometimes like they, because they're both about music. Sometimes it's the music of just the words, and sometimes it's the music of notes plus words. But either way, they speak straight to the heart. I think that's what makes music and poetry and similar and powerful is they just have a way of penetrating the armor that we wear and speaking straight to the heart.
I love that sibling idea. I think that music and poetry, it crosses borders, boundaries, cultures, language, right? So it can reach a multitude too, even if you don't speak the same language.
Right.
So I'm thinking of this time I was in Brazil, 2000, January 1st, 2000, when, the world was supposed to stop. And so on that New Year's Eve, I was competing as an athlete there. So on the New Year's Eve, we all went down to the ocean carrying candles. And I was with the Brazilian team that was competing, a couple American competitors and a couple Canadian competitors. And we lit candles and put them in the sand. And we stuffed our mouths with grapes, 12 grapes.
Wow.
Bit down on the grapes. There was this whole ceremonial thing. And then we stood in a circle and recited the Lord's Prayer. And we're about halfway through it when I realized everyone else was saying it in Portuguese. But the cadence, right?
Right.
The cadence
Absolutely.
and the lullaby and the humming, it's really beautiful. And I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, we all know, we're all so connected. It was really, really beautiful. And someone once told me, like, you could be a songbird or a storyteller when it comes to writing. And poets tend to be more songbirds. They still tell a story, right?
Right.
But it's just
not necessarily in a linear fashion.
Right, exactly. So you have another song for us?
Yeah, the poem that you just read. There's a lot of pain, of course, and sorrow in that poem. And this is a song. It's not a Bob Dylan song. It's written by Julie Miller, and was recorded by a group called Cry, Cry, Cry. And it's called By Way of Sorrow, and I think it speaks to the pain that's in the world. And our RBG certainly knew of and experienced struggle and difficulty. And this is a song that acknowledges pain and is also a kind of prayer for hope. Been taken by the wind. You've known the kiss of sorrow, doors that would not take you in, outcast and a stranger. You have come by way of sorrow, you have come by way of tears, but you'll reach your destiny, meant to find you all these years. All these years, you have drunk a bitter wine with none to be your comfort. You who once were left behind will be welcome at love's table. You have come by way of sorrow, you have come by way of tears, but you'll reach your destiny, meant to find you all these years, meant to find you all these years. All the nights joy has slept will awake the days of laughter. Gone the tears you have wept, you'll dance in freedom ever after. You have come by way of sorrow, you have come by way of tears, but you'll reach your destiny, meant to find you all these years. You have come by way of sorrow, you have come by way of tears, but you'll reach your destiny, meant to find you all these years, meant to find you all these years.
Yay. And that song, so a little bit about why the connection for RBG.
RBG died at a hard time, and having seen what unfolded after her death, it's easy to despair, really, of her vision and what she worked so hard to attain, and seeing it set back as we have seen. And that song, I think we need, because I think we need to acknowledge that things are difficult. Maybe we're drinking that cup of bitter wine now, and it feels sometimes like there's not so very much comfort, but you who once were left behind will be welcome at love's table. You will reach your destiny, and I think we need that reminder in difficult times, that the vision remains even when it's under attack.
Right. I think the theme too in that song, like this, coming from this place of love,
Absolutely.
right? Like it's clarity of right and wrong when you come from that place, right? Of equality, of justice, when you come from that place. And even though she was a judge, it's almost a lack of judgment, right?
Judgment. The rabbis in the Talmud say that a world in which there's only justice and judgment can't endure, that we need compassion. Judgment has to be laced with compassion, because we're human, we're frail creatures, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. All right, so I thought I would read another poem from one of the voices, one of the poets, Chelsea Dingman, beautiful poet. And this poem is called Time After Time for RBG. A basic unit of time was measured by the presence of sunlight by ancient Egyptians. Night, then, rendered immeasurable. Any concept of universal time involves leap seconds, the Earth's rotation, the output of over 400 atomic clocks worldwide. Each time zone presents a standard deviation. The sun rising and setting at different times, our bodies in orbit. When we speak of dark and light, we are referring to time, or life, perhaps. I remember being young. I remember you there, just ahead of me. The mountain range that blotted out the light. How long you held on. How expensive it all was. When the dark claimed you anew, I almost expected it. There was no bomb, no war, no fire, light, just quiet. A knife tear in the night where time wouldn't allow us to see what became of you. Really beautiful poem.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
What about that poem spoke to you?
I think for me, when we were going through and organizing and orchestrating this book, this poem almost comes right in the center of it. And for me, it felt like a spine, like this idea of like how strong RBG continued to be. Like she was fighting cancer. She's sitting on the bench with her body wrapped underneath, her gown, and still like fiercely, help nursing her husband back to health while she was in school. Like all these things, she just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. And you wouldn't even blink or notice that how deeply she was probably suffering, and she still kept pushing. So like that mountain, she was just still like there, and this constant that we could look towards and see. And then this tear in the world, like it just felt like this rip in the world. Like, her absence is a tear in the world. It really is. And a tear, like a teardrop, but a tear, like a rip. And yeah, so I feel that. I feel that in that. I felt that when I first read this poem. Like I was like, wow. And then when we were orchestrating it, it's like this should be in the center. Like this is something really powerful. Her stance and her, you know, her standard and eloquence through very difficult times and just showing up, you know. Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Listening to it, that's the first time you've heard that poem.
It is.
So, yeah, so your reaction.
You know, it's funny. I'm thinking about, she died right as we were going into the fall holy day season in the Jewish
Yes, yes.
the Jewish world, right? Right, literally on the cusp of a Jewish New Year, like hours
Right.
on the cusp of a
Right.
Jewish New Year. So that connection with time, you know, I think I will always associate the time of her death with the Jewish holidays and the passage of time. And I love the way in the poem she talks about all the different ways that we mark time. You know, a Jewish year is marked by both sun and moon, and all the different ways we use nature and human experience to measure
And the alignment
time.
of the planets, like the things that have recurred over and over across centuries, and
Exactly.
you know, the lunar calendar, the Jewish calendar. Yes, yeah, I didn't think about that.
And just the message of those holidays of, as you said, you know, I always like to tell my kids in difficult times, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, just showing up and putting one foot in front of the other, and even when it seems like a long haul.
That's good advice, though. It's a marathon. I mean, life is,
Yeah.
you know, a marathon, not a sprint. Yes. I also was thinking about the line with the bodies, our bodies in orbit, you know, and the fragility of that, right? And we don't know how long we each have. I feel like she tried to make every moment count and every opportunity be super significant. Everything mattered, right?
And
Which
if
is a
we-
Jewish lens, right?
And if we could do 15% as well as she did, we'd all be doing pretty great.
The world would be much better.
Talk about making every moment count. Yeah.
Yeah, she made everything was so intentional and significant, you know, to me.
Yeah.
In reflection of her, it just felt like so intentional, so well thought through, and incredible example of how to live an honorable life, really.
Absolutely.
All right, we're off to another song. What do you have for us?
So I thought I'd wrap up with, this is also a Dylan song, maybe one of my favorite Dylan songs. Kind of early in his career, called Chimes of Freedom. So again, it's a celebration of freedom and justice, and it also kind of talks a lot about time. He's got a line, he says, trapped by no track of hours, for they hanged suspended, as we listened one last time and watched with one last look, spellbound and swallowed till the tolling ended.
Whoa. Okay, thank you for this. Thank you. I'm excited to hear it.
Far between sundown's finish and midnight's broken toll, we ducked inside the doorway's thunder went crashing, as majestic bells of bolts struck shadows on the sounds, seeming to be the chimes of freedom flashing for the warriors whose strength is not to fight, flashing for the refugees on the unarmed roll of flight, and for each and every underdog soldier in the night. And we gazed upon the chimes of freedom flashing. cloud's white curtain, in a far-off corner flares, the hypnotic splatted mist was slowly lifting. Electric lights still struck like arrows, fired but for the ones condemned to drift or else be kept from drifting. Tolling for the searching ones on their speechless seeking trail, for the lonesome-hearted lovers with too personal a tale, and for each unharmful gentle soul misplaced inside a jail. And we gazed upon the chimes of freedom flashing. Starry-eyed and laughing as I recall when we were caught, trapped by no track of hours, for they hang suspended. As we listened one last time, and we watched with one last look, spellbound and swallowed till the tolling ended. Tolling for the aching ones whose wounds cannot be nursed, for the countless confused, accused, misused, strung out ones and worse, and for every hung-up person in the whole wide universe. And we gazed upon the chimes of freedom flashing.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Monday. Tune in.